So let's talk about using the STATA software to calculate sample size. And we will be calculating sample size for this particular study in here. So this study is a critical comparison of the role of the right mindfulness and African wisdom. In healing intergenerational trauma among adults in central Uganda. Now, the most important thing is that this was an intervention study. So before you go into STATA and you begin calculating sample size, you need to know that this is an intervention study. Now, from this intervention study, we have the control group, that is group 1. We also have the group we are giving the treatment for African wisdom, which is one of the interventions that the study is aiming or was aiming to do. Then we had that other group that was being given the right mindfulness as a treatment option. Let me call it treatment option, right mindfulness. Then the study was trying to test the combination of both the African wisdom and the right mindfulness. So there were 3 groups. So we had 3 treatment groups plus a control group, giving us 4. Therefore, we want to calculate the sample size. What is the minimum number of people that we need to recruit in these groups for us to be able to have a reliable sample size? What is the minimum number? Now, to calculate the sample size using STATA, there are some assumptions that we need to make in here. Now, the first assumption, which is the most important assumption, is that first of all, which kind of information are we collecting? You need to know that. Now, because this is a treatment and intervention, we need to measure something. So in this case, we're trying to measure the intergenerational trauma. Has it gone down? Has it gone up? Like that is our dependent variable we are aiming to measure in this case. And so if our intervention has worked, we expect trauma to be reduced up to 0. If the intervention has not worked, we expect the trauma to still remain at 100%. Therefore, the best thing we're looking at the healing. So by what percentage has trauma reduced within our intervention group? That is the main important assumption in that case. So it's easier to use percentage. By what percentage has it reduced? Now, in the control group are the people whom interventions are not being given. They are being left at their state. None of this intervention, African wisdom, right mindfulness, or the combination treatment is being offered to them. Therefore, our assumption in this case is that no one in that category is going to get healed. Like there will be 0 reduction in intergenerational trauma. So the assumption that there will be 0% reduction, which in terms of fraction, that would be 0 out of 100. Doesn't make sense, but would be like 0.00. That would be the portion of the trauma reduction. In African wisdom, which is one of the treatment measures. Now, African wisdom, as per this study, was a new intervention being brought up. It was being tested. It was a new intervention. Therefore, you have to make an assumption that what do you think is going to be the mean or the moderate performance of that intervention? Now, we don't want to keep our options very up or very down. So we can give it an intermediate level, 50%. We expect that 50% of our participants are going to get healed. We expect the African wisdom to offer treatment to 50% of the people. That's the assumption. We give it that moderate level. This in terms of decimal, it's 50 out of 100, which is 0.5. So we expect the reduction proportion to be at 0.5. 0.50, same thing, 0.5. Right mindfulness, this intervention has been working for years and years. It has been proven to be working. Therefore, we have to give it slightly a higher percentage because people have proven it to work. But as per this study was claiming that right mindfulness does not offer the best treatment. Okay, it doesn't offer the best treatment. So So we want to offer it slightly. So we want to offer it slightly a higher percentage than African wisdom because it has been working, but we don't want to offer it too much high percentage because our study aims to find out whether does African wisdom perform better than right mindfulness, or does the combination of both African wisdom or right mindfulness perform better than the right mindfulness treatment. So we can give something like 60%. So 60%. That is the assumption. So our assumption is that 60% of the participants who has been given right mindfulness treatment are going to achieve healing from intergenerational trauma compared to the 50% that the African wisdom people would get. 60% is a fair. Of course, this could also be 70 or maybe 80. The 60% is really fair enough. This would be 0.60%. 0.60 in terms of decimal. Now, the study also hypothesized that if you offer the combination of both the African wisdom treatment and the right mindfulness treatment, then these people are going to get much more better healing. Therefore, we need to offer a much more higher assumption since we're doing two different therapies together. So this could be something like 80%. Of course, you could go 90%, but that is being over ambitious. You could go 70%, which is also moderate there, but 80% can be chosen as the fair ideal assumption. This would be 0.80. Now, these are the assumptions we have made as per our different groups, our different intervention. And so this is very important in calculating if you're going to use STATA to calculate sample size. But there is that other assumption we need to make, that is the significance. What level of significance are you going to calculate the sample size? Is it 90% confidence interval? Is it 95? Is it 99? So in this case, the study can do it at 95% confidence interval. Majority of the studies do at 95% confidence interval. And at that level, the level of significance is 0.05. Okay, you know that from 95% confidence interval, 95% confidence interval. Okay, confidence interval. So the other 5% is your error. The other remaining 5% there is your error rate, error level. No, that 5% is same as 0.05. Right. So this significance can sometimes also be called alpha value, and we'll be able to see where it's applied. Okay, now there is also the last value you need, that is power. Power is more like, you will always hear things like statistical power and all that. At least power should begin from 80% and above. But the good news is that these last two options are default. By default, they're available within the software. You don't need to enter them. You just check it to make sure it's there. So as soon as you're done making all these assumptions, then your work is basically done. So we can go to the software. So when you go to the STATA software, come to statistics, look for power and sample size. Depends on the STATA version you have. If you have the latest version like 17, you may need to keep on going down. Look for power, sample size calculation, something like that around that area. Click on it. It's going to open an interface. Ask yourself, which kind of information will you be collecting? What will you be using for calculation? Something like that. You just need to think around that area. In our case, we are generally going to be comparing mean. Let's say the mean value for the healing before intervention, after intervention, the mean trauma before and after. Most of the things are around mean in here. If our study was, let's say, logistic regression, would go for odds ratio, but mean is our major way of that we're going to do comparisons and all that. So I will click on mean. Realize that anything you click from here on the right hand side, there is an extra task that comes up. So when I click on mean in here, there are so many things I choose from here. But in my case, I'm going to use a one-way analysis of variance. Why one-way analysis? One way is because at every instance, if it is before intervention, can begin comparing the mean of intergenerational trauma in the control versus in the treatment group, which will equally be similar. But let's say at the end line or at the end of the intervention, what is the variation? What is the mean score, first of all? That is one way. So what is the mean score of the trauma? What is the mean score of the somebody's understanding of right mindfulness? What is the mean score of these? Like, there are those independent things you will be assessing to see whether somebody has improved or not improved. Then later you can also, of course, do comparisons, t-tests and all that, but that's now not important. The most important thing is that you are collecting information, quantitative data, then you're going to calculate its mean, then you can see the what does that mean represent before and after. So in this case, I'll choose the one-way analysis of variance as the most. Anytime you're collecting mean, you're most likely going to do one-way analysis of variance. Of course, you can then now do two-way in case you have multiple factors you are trying to compare. That's when the ANOVA comes in and all that, in case you have more than two groups and all that. So when you click on that one-way analysis of variance, here it says it's going to compute sample size. Of course, you can compute something else, but we want sample size in here. Then here, significance level is set as 0.05, the default value. We have talked about significance level. Then this is power. Power is 0.8. So it's basically following what we already have in here. So I told you power 0.8, significance 0.05. Those are already found there by default. Just leave it in there. Here in this, we are using a group weights because it's an intervention study. We have different groups, so we just want to get the group weights in here. Most of these things, just leave it as default. Now, what is most important is here, alternative group means the effect size. Alternative group, because we want to get the effect size at the end of the day. What's the effect size if you do African wisdom only? How about if you do right mindfulness? How about if you do the combination of the interventions? What's the effect size? Now here, this way we enter our values for all the groups, all the assumptions we made in here. We enter the 0, 0.5, 0.6, 0.8 for all the four groups. So enter the first group control. We expect to have a 0 effect size. The second group, so you put there space. We expect African wisdom to have 0.5 effect. Put there space. We expect the next right mindfulness to have 0.6 effect. Then we expect the combination to have 0.8. So you put all of them there. If you have more than 4 groups, you can always keep adding those assumptions into that. Just space them up. Then you can press OK. Then it will calculate for you the sample size behind it. So here you just close this page. So here it has calculated the sample size in here. Estimated sample size for one-way ANOVA. All that information up. Alpha 0.05, power 0.8, delta. Number of groups, NG's number of groups. See, it recorded 4 groups because you have control and the other 3 intervention groups. Okay, so these are other default values in here. Okay, so you remember mean 1, the effect, the first effect is 0. The second effect for the second group is 0.5. The third group 0.6. The fourth group 0.8. That is what's calculated. These are just a variance, which is it has calculated automatically on its own. So here it tells you that the total population N should be 132, and the number of people per group should be 33. So 33 is going to be our sample size per group, but the total number of people we have to recruit is 132. So out of 132, 33 will go to control, 33 will be going to right mindfulness group, 33 will be going to African wisdom, then the other 33 will be going to the combination therapy to give us the 4 groups. So that's how you calculate the sample size in here. Now, note that on the left hand side, you also have the command that it has run here. Meaning literally you could run this same command in here to get the sample size. So just type power. So let's see ls to clear that screen. Let's clear it off. So meaning you could just do power space one way space. Then you add my first group I expect 0 effects space. Second group I expect 0.5 effect space. Third group I expect 0.6 effect space. Then the fourth group I expect 0.8 effect. Then you press enter and it will do for you the same calculation. So this is the easier way, direct. But the other one is just showing you what goes on behind the scene. You could type the command and then it will display for you all the results in here.